Hello and welcome to a new video series where I would like to take responsibility of making you a much better attacking player. And I'm not talking about delivering the final blow. You can do a lot of puzzles online where you learn how to checkmate your opponent, etc. I'm talking about the recognition of a chance to be attacking opponent's king. What are the conditions that would indicate of you being allowed to do that? How to build it up from the start? Piece coordination, tips like getting as many pieces as possible to attack opponent's king, little indicators like space advantage on that side, and most importantly, achieving a superb central control before you're allowed to move your army to the flank. Today we're going to start with the first game that is going to encompass a lot of these principles. This was a blitz game of mine that I thought is very instructive. My opponent is a very strong club level player who is around 2200 online on chess.com and Lichess. I started with d4 and we came to play the Slav Defense. This time I chose the move knight to c3. And e3 is among the most popular moves over here. We're basically teasing black to play the move bishop f5, which was played in the game. And then I have a couple of ideas that are quite devious in order to try and get an advantage against that. So after bishop f5, which is a move many club level players want to play before they close down their bishop, we have here, thanks to the knight on c3, a move c takes d5. If, first of all, they're going to be taking with the pawn, which they didn't, our move is going to be queen to b3. And so we're not only targeting the pawn on b7, but in this position, we're also targeting the pawn on d5. Yes, it's guarded twice, but the queen cannot leave the protection of d5. There are numerous lines here that black can play at a grandmaster level. For example, one serious move is bishop c8, and another move is knight to c6. White can get a small advantage over there as well, but black has to know exactly what to do in order not to get a bad position. Nevertheless, at your level, which is 0 to 2400 online, most of the opponents play either queen d7 or queen b6. So shortly, I would like to cover those two in case you want to be playing same line as white. So queen to b6 immediately loses a pawn because we can take on d5, and the intermezzo queen takes b3 doesn't help black, as we have an intermezzo ourselves, an in-between move, which is knight takes f6 with a check. And after they take our knight, we can finally take our queen, and white is simply a pawn up in this position. So as we go back, queen to b6 is not possible, and my favorite trap comes after queen to d7. Seems like everything is fine, protected, but we have a move knight to f3 over here. After knight to c6, most players with the white pieces, they go for bishop to b5, but I have a better move here for you. I go knight to e5. First of all, black is not able to take. They have to make a queen move, because if they do take, we have a double threat. The knight is hanging, and we want to go bishop b5 and pin the black's queen to the king, which would win us the game. So it turns out that in this position, black has to make a move with the queen. And most often they go queen to c7. As you can see, we already could take the pawn on d5, but I recommend even a stronger move over here, pawn to g4. This is trying to deflect one of those pieces. For example, if black's knight takes on g4, now we're able to take over here on d5, and the knight is kept there. You see, black's knight is not exchanging for this knight. And this ensures that we have a double threat of not only taking the queen here, but also simply checking and allowing now our queen to target the f7 square. Instead, if we go back and they take here with the bishop, we can simply take over here and once again take on d5 comfortably without any trouble. So this is a couple of lines of what I like to do in case they take with the pawn, and every now and then they play the move knight takes d5. My preparation here is to play knight to e2. I wish I could play e4 right away, but the problem with this move is that they have knight takes c3 intermezzo. Now my queen is under attack, and after I take the knight, they can simply be a pawn up after bishop takes e4, white's crying. So instead, I'm preparing that. I'm playing knight to e2, and now I'm ready to play the move e4. Our opponent played e6. I played pawn move to e4. And after they take this knight over here, I can simply retake now with the other knight, and this keeps control over this. Now in this position, I'm still in my preparation. I know that as we have the mobile center, black doesn't want this to linger. So they need to equalize in space by pushing sooner or later either pawn move to c5 or pawn move to e5. If they're never going to achieve that, then this huge pawn center by white is going to ensure superb squares for the white's minor pieces. Our knight and bishops are going to be able to go to fantastic squares. By the way, white also is trying in this position very often to play pawn to f3, as you will see, and make sure that this bishop is out of the game. So what I played was bishop e3. I'm taking an extra look on the square c5. They played bishop to b4. Now they're threatening this pawn again due to the pin occurring, and white simply played f3. Now, how do you know that f3 is not a bad move? Because there are a lot of principles or myths. Don't move the f-pawn. If you understand the underlying reasons, a deep understanding of when it is bad, then you're going to be able to recognize in a position f3 is good here and f3 is bad there. So first of all, I don't have a knight that wants to go to that square. Very often when you play f3, the knight from g1 cannot go there, which is not the case here. Second of all, I'm weakening these two diagonals, but it's of zero relevance. If they go queen to h4 and give a check, I can always either play g3 or block the check with the bishop. Also, I have a star square bishop on this diagonal, so basically f3 has no drawbacks for me on my pieces or my king safety, and I'm also allowing myself not only to protect e4, which imprisons this bishop, but also in the future I may help myself to expand on the side with a move like g4. Here my opponent played a dubious move, bishop takes e3, hard to understand why. This gives me bishop pair for nothing. And over castling, we're learning one important principle here, that when we have superb sense of control, or when the center is locked, this gives you green light to expand on the flank. And so I can play h4 risk-free right now for my king, because black is not able to open up the center and simply deploy their pieces to attack my king. A lot of players would be saying, what, something might happen and my opponent may still be targeting my king. If you don't see it, it's not there, and try to think concretely in a position. You have to see a concrete way how black can deploy their pieces in order to hunt down your king. Just like we were concrete about the pawn move to f3. It doesn't take away squares from any of my pieces, and these two diagonals that usually are the downsides to playing f3 are completely safe from white's point of view over here. So I play the move h4, my opponent plays h6, likely to create this room for their bishop. White played h5. Again, huge space advantage on the side by white. Bishop h7 was played, and in this position I'm playing queen to d2. I'm not yet sure that I want to take on h6, probably not, because queen there is going to be lonely warrior, and that's no Chuck Norris to win the game alone over there. But I'm aiming at it, and this has a psychological edge. Plus, it's good to lift the queen up nevertheless to get this d1 square for the rook, which might be used later. And the third thing about this that you never know when these are going to start working. My opponent played queen to f6, bishop d3, simple development, pawn to e5, no reaction by me. If they take, I have options of taking by pawn and bishop. I like them both. Rook to b1, getting the rook onto the open file right now. I know I mentioned d1, but b1 is an excellent square as well. That comes with a tempo. b6 by black, and here I play the move king to f2. I know it looks a little bit masochistic because I'm placing my king on the same square as opponent's queen, but in this 3-minute blitz game I wasn't able to find any reason why this is bad, and I want to later perhaps place my rook over here, which will help me develop that attack on the side of the board. So it's funny, you can see that my king is safe even on such a square with the shelter somewhat moved up, because I have this immense central control and black's pieces cannot get through it to my king. Knight to d7, g4, pawn storm starts, rook e8, and finally I'm able to take advantage of the black's hook, the so-called pawn that I'm using to open up lanes in the attack. We have takes and takes, thanks to the queen on d2. That was possible. And after queen e6, you could see that white is getting an overwhelming attack on the king side. So typical idea in these positions is to play h6, and if black is allowing, I will open up the position another lane, which I'm going to take advantage of immediately with rook to g1. And instead, in this position, black typically has to go g6. And now we have to get Bocelli to sing for black, time to say goodbye, because the black's light square bishop is completely off play. And in this position, I would like to use the principle of getting more pieces into the attack. As Servan would say, that everyone is welcome to the party. And you can pause the video and think, how can white bring an extra piece over here into the attack? So in this position, you could think also, now with a hint, if you could place this light square bishop on any square on the board, after which, of course, when you drop that piece on the dream square, it's black to play, where would you place it? And so there are two ideas. One is placing the bishop on b3 over here, which is phenomenal diagonal for the bishop, or what I chose, which is bishop f1 going to h3, which is going to be skewering the queen and knight. But once again, I'm not doing this just for tactical reason. It's not like, oh, I go here and I win something. I'm thinking strategically of deploying my pieces on aggressive squares where they're taking away squares around the vicinity of the black's king. And this is going to give me the fruit at the end of the line, a tactic, a combination. When the discrepancy between the activity of my pieces and their pieces is going to become so huge that the tactic is going to be inevitable. My opponent played over here f6, trying to kick away my pieces somewhat, but I have intermezzo. Bishop h3, queen to d6, or queen f7, sorry, was played, and then I have already a way to win a pawn with bishop takes d7. Sorry, bishop, you have to go, and now I'm already a pawn up. And this is now a matter of technique, but I will still show you what happened later, because once again, soon we're going to use another principle, the same principle of getting even more pieces into the attack. This pawn on h6 is also facilitating a lot of attacking opportunities. Take a look at the black's king probably. Right now, he's very, very scared with my bishop and pawn over there. So we had e takes d4. I'm offering a trade of queens that endgame is completely winning for me. Their bishop is simply not playing, and I have passed pawns together with the bishop and the support of the rooks, which are going to win the game very soon for me. Instead, they played queen to e6, which is the right practical decision, keeping the queens on the board. I'm getting a new piece into the attack. This might facilitate ideas of queen d7 later on. Of course, they grabbed the free pawn. You got to be practical. Rook to d2 blocking the check. Queen goes back to e6. And now I start with a touch, moving a couple of pieces to create a threat. First, bishop g5, which now threatens mate. Queen to f7. And now you can pause the video again, because I think one of the biggest principles and takeaways from this video is getting more pieces into the attack. So just take a look how white can do that. We have rook h4, and then the rook is coming to f4, which brings even more attacking pieces into the game. So black is panicking with c5, queen to d6, and it's getting worse and worse. Black is looking to chase away my pieces, but already I have too many. Queen to d5, rook e8, rook f4, and it's getting worse and worse. And at the end, he's forced to exchange the queen somewhat, I guess. And I was able to get two rooks on the 7th, bishop is lost, and black is finally resigning. So I think this game showed a couple of things. First of all, how to play Slav Defense variation, where black very often goes bishop f5, and I showed you a couple of tricks and traps that I have here prepared with white. Second of all, we looked at how we can evaluate concretely moves that often may look like break the principles, but then we look concretely at the position and see that it doesn't do any harm to our position, and we only see the benefits of it. Then we saw also how immense central control, which doesn't allow opponent to create counterplay in the middle, facilitates the flank attacks and allows us to push the pawns on the side. And even saw how king can linger in the center if you see that the black's pieces are incapable of bashing through your defenses and touching your king. And then this phenomenal flank attack pawn storm worked out. And a couple of times we saw an example of bringing more pieces into attack. So for example, this bishop had to go over here or to h3, which increases the pressure on opponent. And later we saw this rook h4 bringing even more attacking pieces into the game. And when the difference between king safety and piece activity becomes large enough, you get the cherry on the top and a tactic. So when you go on chess.com, it's like rook f7, congratulations, you're an amazing attacking player. But it's another skill that you have to develop where you get yourself those opportunities. Hire me as your personal online chess coach if you're interested in private lessons with me. This is my full-time job for over a decade, and I've done this for already over 15,000 one-on-one coaching hours. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next class of these hopefully happy video series for you. Bye-bye.